Hello, this is Pete, your Kenshin1913, along with
Rhea.
And this is another Cooking with Kenshin1913. What are we making today?
Today we're making cheesecake.
She's got some really good one.
So to start off, we're going to make our crust. I preheated the oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And in the oven, I actually put a glass Pyrex dish. It's like 9x9 filled with water. I'll tell you what that's for later, but we're just heating that water up for now. So the first thing we're going to do is we've got a stick of unsalted butter. We've got one sleeve of graham crackers, and you can use any flavor you want. I just use the honey graham crackers. And then we're going to use 1 tablespoon of just normal granulated sugar. So the first thing is we're going to take our butter, we're going to put it in the microwave and melt it. Got the melted butter. Then we're going to take our graham crackers and put them into the food processor and just smash them up. Now, if you wanted to do this without a food processor, you could just put them into a baggie and smash them up, but I like a more uniform crumb, so I do it in the food processor.
Now, you mentioned you're using a whole package?
I'm using a whole package, so you don't have to count out. Some recipes have a specific number of graham crackers, but this one you can just use the whole thing. And I like to help the food processor out by just breaking them up a little bit. So we'll do the graham cracker and the butter together first. And you want to do this until it all looks uniform and it kind of looks like wet sand. So it gets a little steamy because the butter's hot, so you'll have to look in every once in a while. So now that this is done, I'll just show you the consistency you're looking for. It looks wet, really wet. It's ground up. It's ready to go into the pan once we grease it.
You got the sugar?
Oh, you're right, Pete.
That's why I'm here.
What would I do without you? A tablespoon of sugar. We'll grind it up one more time. The sugar's optional. I think the science behind it is that it helps bind the graham cracker and all that stuff and makes it heats up in the oven and caramelizes almost to create some sort of stronger bond. But if you're a little bit sensitive to sugar, I know some people are, just leave it out. The graham cracker's already sweet enough and you're gonna have plenty of sugar in the cheesecake. So we'll do this for another few seconds and then we'll put it in the pan. So now that's ready to go, I'm just gonna spray the pan. I use some pan baking made with flour, but you can use any sort of spray, or you could even use melted butter. That's in the original recipe, but I always felt like melting extra butter for the pan was extra work. But if you want to do that extra work, hey, good for you.
So that's a cooking spray that has flour in it as well?
Yeah, it's got flour
cool
in it so that it releases. Because what you could do back in the day was grease your pan and then flour the pan separately. But who wants to do that? And then a little trick that I like to do, because I don't know if you can see in the pan, but sometimes it's hard to get an even spray, is I like to take a little bit of paper towel. It's a trick my mom taught me. And you sort of just make sure you get it in all the corners and on the sides. That way it's equal all the way around. So then we'll put our graham cracker crumbs in. So what I like to do is I just plop it all in here. Spread it out as equally as you can. But to get a really nice, flat, solid base, a trick that I've learned and that I've seen is people use the bottom part of a measuring cup. So once I have it all the way around, then I like to press on the bottom just to get it nice and flat and as equal as you can. That way every slice has an even base. So I used the measuring cup and I just pounded it down. So now it's nice, equal, solid base. It looks a little liquidy, but that'll all burn away, melt, bake away once we bake the crust. So into the oven it goes for 30 minutes. So the crust has just come out of the oven. You can see it's no longer wet. nice golden brown, little brown there, and we're just gonna let this cool while we work on the actual cheesecake part. So we've got sour cream, got a cup and a fourth of sour cream, a cup of sugar, 20 ounces of cream cheese, which is 2.5 bars of cream cheese, and then we've got a third of a cup of heavy whipping cream, 5 eggs, and a tablespoon of vanilla. So the first thing we're going to do for the filling is we're going to put the sour cream into the food processor. Now you can use, if you've got a KitchenAid stand mixer, you can use one of those. When I first started making this, I did not have a stand mixer, but I had a food processor. So that's what I used, and that's what I still use today.
Very nice. So Rhea, where did you learn this recipe?
So this recipe is actually my version of Alton Brown's sour cream cheesecake, which I found on the Food Network. I really like the way that Alton Brown cooks. Like, everything he does is a science experiment pretty much, so I know it's been tested, and it hasn't steered me in the wrong direction yet. So I first learned this because I wanted to impress my my at the time boyfriend's family for Thanksgiving. They invited me over, and I said, I gotta bring something. You can't show up your first Thanksgiving, you're the girlfriend empty-handed. So I looked up this cheesecake, and it was a hit. So I make it every single Thanksgiving. They ask for it every time. So we're just gonna pulse this for about 10 seconds, just in case there are any lumps in there. You just want to make it nice and smooth. Awesome. Then we're gonna add our sugar. So that's a whole cup of sugar. And feel free to modify if you think it's too sweet, or if you want to use a sugar substitute, just use whatever the directions are for that sugar substitute. But hey, it's the holidays. What's wrong with a little sugar? Mm-hmm. And then I'm also gonna throw in the cream cheese, and I just like to break it up into little chunks. That way, it'll get more to a uniform smoothness faster. And you're less likely to have big chunks of cream cheese in there. Because you want this all to be smooth. When you cut into the cheesecake, you definitely don't want to bite into a chunk of unflavored cream cheese. It's probably the worst thing that could happen with a cheesecake, other than it not setting. And a little tip is that I've only read, but I do it every time, to set out your ingredients beforehand and let it sort of get to room temperature. I don't know why, but I do it. So my cream cheese is nice and soft now. So we've got the cream cheese, sour cream, and sugar. We're just gonna blend this until it's smooth. Halfway through, or occasionally, you want to scrape the inside of the food processor just to make sure that everything's getting mixed. So as you can see, it's really smooth now. It's got a really smooth consistency. There are no lumps of sugar or cream cheese that I can see. So we'll leave that for now, and we'll add the other half of the filling, which is the heavy cream, the eggs, and the vanilla. So this recipe calls for 2 eggs full, and then 3 yolks. So and just make sure you have another bowl for your separating, because if you do it over the main bowl, you risk getting some of that white in, or shell. Like, I just dropped some shell in there, but it's not going in.
Yeah, everybody has a different technique on how they get the yolk from the egg.
My mom taught me this way when I was a little kid. Mm-hmm. So this is just the way I do it, but you can use the hand technique where you just crack the whole thing pretty much over your palm and let the white run out.
Yeah.
Through your fingers.
Yeah, I do it your way. I usually do. Hey, break it. That's what the shell's there for.
Yeah, exactly. And then your hand's less likely to get messy. No one I know likes to touch
eggs.
Raw egg.
It's like goop.
And then you can save the whites if you want to make a meringue. I've never done that. You can do that. Or if you like an egg white omelet.
Yep.
Perfect for that. So 2 eggs, 3 yolks. This side. And then we're going to add the heavy cream. And a tablespoon of vanilla.
You know, like how you had it in the shot glass.
Yeah, it's actually a shot glass measuring.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, so I got a couple of these. So if you ever need a shot glass, you got one. And if you ever need something for small liquid measurements, you got that too. Now we're just going to whisk this up. Make sure to break up the yolks. And you're just doing this till it's all combined. And then what we'll do is we'll slowly add it into the food processor. And then again, we'll scrape and we'll mix and we'll scrape.
It might seem like it's a big ordeal to do this, but let me tell you, it's well worth it.
And you know, do it a few times and it's not that bad. I've got the recipe measurements memorized at this point, so it seems pretty easy, but the ingredients are so simple. You find them all at the supermarket. You might already have them in your fridge or in your pantry, so it's something that you could throw together and it's impressive. People will love it. Mm-hmm. The longest part is just waiting for it to bake. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put about half of this, and you just eyeball it. It doesn't have to be exact. Put half of it in right now. And then we'll mix it. We'll mix it and then we'll add the rest. And you're just looking for it to be all incorporated. And we'll throw the rest of it in. There's a little bit of little lip of
Spillage.
stuff. Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Gets a little messy. So I like to do another scrape because as you can see there's still some stuff that doesn't get fully mixed in. But after this it should be okay. And then I like to mix around in just to make sure that there are no lumps. But usually at this point you've pulverized it. We're going to pour it in. Now before I do this, I'm just going to turn the oven temperature. It was at 300 for the crust. I'm going to put it down to 250 for cooking. There we go.
So now, Rhea, have you ever made a cheesecake not in a springform pan?
I have not.
Yeah. See, I've never made a cheesecake that has been in a springform pan.
Oh, really?
We always use the pie crust. The plate that you use for pie.
Yes.
But that's it? You just pour it in?
You just pour it in, and what I like to do, because I don't know if you can see, but there are tiny bubbles, cue the tiny bubble song, on top of the cheesecake.
Yep.
So what I like to do is either take a toothpick or a fork and kind of pop them, because they show up on the top of the surface, and if you really care about a nice and smooth cheesecake, you just do a little bit extra. But if you don't really mind the bubbles, they don't do anything.
You can't, see, you wouldn't want to bang. You know, sometimes when you're making it, you don't want to do that because you might crack the
base,
crust.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the bubbles, they're fine. If you want to pop them, you can. If you don't, it's fine. Optional step. So, if you look in, I have a pan filled with water that's been in there since we did the crust, and you might be able to see some of the steam. That's just in there because the original recipe indicated to put the cheesecake into, it's called a bain-marie, where you have hot water and you place whatever you're cooking into the hot water, and it helps to cook the thing evenly. Well, the thing is, I don't have anything big enough to fit this pan, so I actually just thought all we need really is the steam and all that heat. So that was my solution to that problem, and it hasn't failed me yet. So
we're gonna put this in a 250-degree oven for how long?
we're gonna do it for an hour and a half, and then after that we'll prop the door open, shut off the heat for a minute, and then close the oven door again for another hour and a half. So it takes about 3 hours to make this. All right, it's been an hour and a half. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna prop this door open for a minute. We're gonna turn off the oven, and we'll start the timer for 1 minute. Then we'll shut the door and let it sit for another hour and a half. All right. Now the door's closed, and we'll set the timer for another hour and a half. And then to the fridge. Just took it right out of the oven. Now we're gonna cover it with foil. And then the hardest part, waiting overnight for this to cool down and finally be ready to eat.
Yeah, so it's totally worth making it a day ahead, of course.
Oh yeah, always make it a day ahead. The longer it is in the fridge, the more settled it'll be.
Alright, so we'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Alright, we just took the cheesecake out of the fridge. Here it is. And now we'll remove it from the spring fin. So I like to take a paring knife and just go around the outer edge just to loosen the edges up.
Yeah, because I don't really cook a lot with springform pans, so like this is all new to me about how to get this out of here.
Here comes Connor.
We just missed you, bud.
And then I never remember where I start, so I go around one more time for good measure.
Yeah, but this was easily the hardest thing. I was like, oh man, I want that cheese. I dreamt of cheesecake.
Alright, then you unlock the little thing here, and hopefully it releases. Ta-da! And then what I'd like to do here is I like to take just a knife and I go underneath and I go all the way around and keep it as close to the pan as possible. That way you're not taking up part of the crust. And then slide it onto your serving dish. Just like that.
Very nice.
And that's it. And then we'll slice it up.
Now, Rhea, what toppings would you recommend for the cheesecake?
Whatever you like. I used to do strawberries, cherries. Blueberries are good. You can get the pie fillings.
What would you say? Cherry. I love cherry.
Connor, relax. Fresh strawberries, the pie filling strawberries, pie filling cherries, chocolate syrup, caramel, whatever you want. Really anything. Maybe crumbled up Oreos. So let's cut into it. If you want to be super fancy, you can clean your knife in between. We'll be super fancy today. Alright. We'll plate it up.
Yeah, looks
There
great.
we are. Slice of cheesecake. Homemade. Just for you.
All right, so here is our cheesecake, or Rhea's cheesecake. Look at it. Beautiful. Plating. She plated it really nice. So now it's time to dig in.
That looks good.
Mmm. Wow, that is really creamy. Oh man, I'm going for seconds.
Oh yeah.
And the crust on, and the crust on the bottom is just really, really good. And it's just excellent. I love it. Thank you so much, Rhea.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So this has been me, or Kenshin1913, along with
Rhea.
And this has been another Cooking with Kenshin1913. And as my mom would say, enjoy and happy eating.